everybody. So we will pick back up. Genesis chapter 24 should be verse 27. I know whenever I was getting ready, it's like, man, I forgot where I was being off last week. Kind of not used to it, I guess. So just kind of recap where we've been so far in chapter 24, verses 1 through 26, is Abraham's servant is going out to find the wife for Isaac. And they've already had the meeting at the well with Rebekah, and she's going back to her family now. So picking up verse 28, okay? So the young woman ran home to tell her family everything that had happened. Now Rebekah had a brother named Laban who ran out to meet the man at the spring. He had seen the nose ring and the bracelets on his sister's wrist, and had heard Rebekah tell what the man had said. So he rushed out to the spring where the man was still standing beside his camels. So right here, we see that her brother's the one that's going out to meet with the servant, which I think it's later, somewhere around verse 50, it mentions her father, Bethuel. But it's interesting that the brother's the one that's having to go out and do this meeting and this arrangement. So typically, the father would have been responsible. So we can kind of assume a little bit that there's something going on with him, and that his role of patriarch of the family is in this transition over to Laban. So although he's alive, he is having to, Laban's having to step up, if you will, and take on that role and responsibility prior to the death. Which, even so, Abraham, maybe he's alive, maybe he's not right now. Eventually, we're going to get to the point where the servant goes back to Isaac specifically. So can there be some cultural transfer of the role and responsibility of the patriarch while the person's still alive? Absolutely. So if we want to say, is Abraham past, is Abraham alive, it doesn't change anything in the theology or the cultural understanding of this. The mantle's been passed to Isaac. He is now going to be the leader in the family. So he goes out, sees all this wealth that's been given to his sister. And Laban said to him, verse 31, Laban said to him, "Come and stay with us, you who are blessed by the Lord. Why are you standing here outside the town when I have a room all ready for you and a place prepared for the camels?" So she's already kind of giving him his heads up, and he's kind of like over eager, like, "Hey, I saw all this wealth that you gave to my sister. Why don't you come?" Yeah, it's the Lamborghini we were talking about last week. Yeah. This is more than just a little Mustang. He done busted out the Lambo coming in. So, absolutely. So he's excited to meet this person and know more about what's going on. So the man went home with Laban, and Laban unloaded the camels, gave him straw for their bedding, fed them, and provided water for the man and the camel drivers to wash their feet. So this is the first time we mention other people. So it is just more than the servant and the animals. He's been traveling with several people in this, and we're seeing a very overt hospitality here. So it's not just go, hey, hang out in the stables, rest, take care of your animals. He's been a little extra hospitable. He's even washing the camel driver's feet, right? So it's showing that this is a very, very much overly hospitable with the situation. So he probably has an idea what's going to happen here. So verse 33, then food was served, but Abraham's servant said, "I don't want to eat until I have told you why I have come." "All right," Laban said, "tell us." "I am Abraham's servant," he explained, "and the Lord has greatly blessed my master. He has become a wealthy man. The Lord has given him flocks of sheep and goats, herds of cattle, a fortune in silver and gold, and many male and female servants and camels and donkeys." So he's starting to recount everything that we've already read in the first portion here. So it's just kind of a recapitulation, so a retelling of the story, and letting them know exactly, the extravagance of what's coming with this request. So verse 36, when Sarah, my master's wife, was very old, she gave birth to my master's son, and my master has given him everything he owns. So we already have that transfer. He's given him everything. So Isaac is now going to be the patriarch for the family. "And my master made me take an oath. He said, 'Do not allow my son to marry one of these local Canaanite women. Go instead to my father's house, to my relatives, and find a wife there for my son.' But I said to my master, 'What if I can't find a young woman who is willing to go back with me?' He responded, 'The Lord in whose presence I have lived will send his angel with you and will make your mission successful. Yes, you must find a wife for my son from among my relatives, from my father's family. Then you will have fulfilled your obligation. But if you go to my relatives and they refuse to let her go with you, you'll be free from my oath. So today, when I came to the spring, I prayed this prayer: O Lord, God of my master Abraham, please give me success on this mission. And see, I am standing here beside the spring. This is my request. When a young woman comes to draw water, I will say to her, please give me a little drink of water from your jug. If she says, yes, have a drink, and I will draw water for your camels too, let her be the one that you have selected to be the wife of my master's son. Before I finished praying in my heart, I saw Rebekah coming out with her water jug on her shoulder. She went down to the spring and drew water. So I said to her, please give me a drink. She quickly lowered her jug from her shoulder and said, yes, have a drink, and I will water your camels too. So I drank, and then she watered the camels. Then I asked, whose daughter are you? She replied, I am the daughter of Bethuel, and my grandparents are Nahor and Malchah. So I put the ring on her nose and the bracelets on her wrist. Then I bowed low and worshiped the Lord. I praised the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, because he had led me straight to my master's niece to be his son's wife. So we finally get to the request. So tell me, will you or won't you show unfailing love and faithfulness to my master? Please tell me yes or no, and then I'll know what to do next. So we've kind of had this whole recant of what's going on, and he's explaining more or less that it's just nothing less than divine intervention that has caused this meeting to occur. So he's putting the ball in their court to say what to do next. Now, if they are all followers of Yahweh, followers of the Lord, as that's part of the, hey, come from my family, it's almost that they're in an obligation, if they really believe that this is God's work, to follow through with this request. So, verse 50, then Laban and Bethuel replied. So again, there's Bethuel finally answering, but it's not just the father. He might be getting a blessing here, but it's really Laban who's acting as the patriarch. The Lord has obviously brought you here, so there's nothing we can say. Again, they're acknowledging that if this is divine intervention, it's God's hand that's moving it. So regardless of their opinion or their feelings about things, if it's meant to be and God is sovereign, is it going to work out the way he intends to? Yeah. Whether we're unsure, whether we know what the next path is that we're going to take, the next step that we're going to take, if we're trusting God, it's going to work out. It might be painful in the process of working out. And I kind of have a saying of it might pass like a kidney stone, but this is going to pass. So sometimes it's difficult, but we got to get through it as we're being refined. Okay, so verse 51, they answer, here is Rebekah, take her and go. Yes, let her be the wife of your master's son, as the Lord has directed. When Abraham's servant heard their answer, he bowed down to the ground and worshipped the Lord. Then he brought out silver and gold jewelry and clothing and presented them to Rebekah. He also gave expensive presents to both her brother and mother. So this is the dowry. He's been traveling with this. It's kind of the bride price, so that he can, hey, if you say yes, I'm just going to go ahead and give it to you, and I'm going to take her home with me, right? So he was ready and prepared.
And also, even more solidified the fact that Lemuel was the head of the house.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He presented it to
him and the mother. Yeah, yeah. So it shows that, maybe Bethuel was sick. Maybe he's incapacitated. There's something.
Well, he's gotten close to Abraham's age.
Yeah, he's got to be. Yeah, he's because it's his niece. So definitely, old age would be a good assumption, I think, here. So. Oh, yeah. Bury the family, yeah.
So Nahor was Bethuel's dad.
Yes.
And Nahor was Abraham's brother.
Correct.
So he has to at least be 15 to 20 years younger than Abraham.
Yeah, not by much.
Abraham, sometimes people live longer than others,
What's that?
So, at this point, Abraham's 130.
Yeah, he's pretty old.
Yeah, so he's in his hundreds at least.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Pushing it.
Yeah, definitely pushing it. Yes. He's an old man. So he pays the dowry and he presents it to Laban, and then they eat their meal. So verse 54, then they ate their meal, and the servant and the men with him stayed there overnight. But early the next morning, Abraham's servant said, send me back to my master. So they've ate, they've rested. He's ready to go. let's take Rebecca and go. So this is kind of setting up the little bit of conflict that we get.
Quite a ways to travel.
Yeah, it's almost a
It's
month.
gonna take them another month to get back.
Yep, and add another person to it. Yep. So, all right.
They may not be used to traveling that long. So.
No, absolutely not. But we want Rebecca. All right, so let me back up. But early this morning, Abraham's servant said, "Send me back to my master." Verse 55, but we want Rebecca to stay with us at least 10 days, her brother and mother said, then she can go. Now, this kind of throwing a wrench in everything, right? They've already said, hey, she can go, you can be married, here's the dowry, here's everything. And now they're like, let her stay with us, another week, 10 days. You think that opens up a possibility of maybe her not going, or they're changing their mind, or they're having some confusion or doubts?
Or they were to grab some more
Yeah.
wealth from them.
Oh, yeah. Well, send us a little more payment. Yeah. We don't know exactly where their heart is other than.
But also, the day before, they didn't know that Rebecca was going anywhere. So
No.
maybe it is they just don't want to let her go. Because there's a chance that they'll never see her again.
Yeah. Well,
Think about somebody coming in and taking Zoe away from us tomorrow, and we didn't know about it.
No, yeah, it would be
Can't prepare
hard.
for that.
No. But it kind of gives me a thought too, how sometimes in the moment in our lives that we can just feel God working and we're just on fire for it. And then maybe a day, two, whatever, for us, we question like, man, was that really God? Was that my emotions? Was this just happenstance? Was it circumstance? I think we kind of sit back and
wanted to be sure that they were doing the right thing.
be sure that they're doing the right thing.
Her sinner was a stranger, even if he comes in the name of their family.
Yeah. I mean, when was the last time they actually saw Abraham or saw any of these people? Who knows, right? Yeah.
A monkey wrench, so to speak,
Yeah.
isn't always a bad turnout.
No.
Sometimes it's just meant to be that way.
No, absolutely. And again, this is where we can have that conversation of like free will versus God's will, right? And this is one of those where people struggle with it. A lot of people struggle with how does our free will align with God's will. So at the end of the day, God's will cannot be equal to our will, right? So he can't be powerless to change what we're going to do or to change the situation. And there's none of us who can say back to God what he should do, right? I mean, we're the creation. So this is where it's difficult. Even though if there's moments where we question what God's doing or if we stray off the path a little bit, is God's will still going to be done some way, shape, or form? Right. Yeah. It might not be the way that we thought it was going to work out, but, we can, shake the stick at God, so to say, but his will be done. We cannot stop what he wants to happen. It's kind of where I'll take the idea of.
When you took the boys to the store and they're having a temper tantrum,
Yeah.
You're still going to take them wherever you need to go, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what they're saying, does it?
You're going to get in this car whether you like it or not, because Mama's got to go shopping. We can either do this the easy way or the hard way, but you're getting in the car, right?
It's going to be sore or it's not. But it's
Exactly. And I think even for us sometimes, if we do something and we're not listening to God's voice or we're not being drawn in that conviction, it's like, I'm doing something I know that I shouldn't do. We're going to end up with the sore tail, right? God disciplines those whom he loves, those who he calls children, right? So I think that even here we can see that it's okay at times to say, all right, was it my feelings? Was it my emotion? Am I doing the right thing? Even if we get off track a little bit, we can be assured God's will be done. So there's the easy way and the hard way. So we try to listen to that little voice and trust them. But I do think that there is some trust here, and we're going to see that as we're going through. So we want Rebecca to stay with us at least 10 days. Her brother and mother said, then she can go. But he said, the servant, don't delay me. The Lord has made my mission successful. Now send me back so I can return to my master. So again, the servant is basically saying, hey, we've already seen God work. Like, we know that nothing else could have set this in motion. Nothing else could have made this happen. It's even more perfect than they could have asked for. Go go to my homeland and find a relative. They didn't just find any relative. You found a niece, someone, they would have known and been close to. So not only that, we see the heart and the character of Rebecca in this conversation. So he's saying, hey, don't don't try to stop God from doing what God's doing. Okay. But verse 57, well, they said, so Laban and the mom, well, they said, we'll call Rebecca and ask her what she thinks. Don't you think this is kind of odd, especially in that culture? Again, things are different now, but the fact of asking the woman what her opinion of the situation is and what she wants to do doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it? Knowing what we know about, Near Eastern.
They've already accepted the transaction.
Yeah, they've already accepted the transaction, for, all points and responsibilities. Who is responsible for Rebecca at this point now? The servant, until he gives her to Isaac. It's as unfortunate as it is to say, but women, and whether it's concubines or wives, were looked at a lot like property, right? So the transactions occurred. The servant is, not control, but he has the responsibility over. Like, hey, this is ours now. We need to go on. And so, no. Let's stop and let's ask Rebecca what she thinks.
Maybe they thought she would say, "Oh, just whatever you think."
Yeah.
Just not being able to make decisions.
Yeah, and that is a great point.
That she was moving into what they wanted and not.
Yeah. I think it could have been a little bit of family playing the emotions, or putting this on her, and well, I don't really want you to go right now, but what do you think? And it's kind of we'll put a little pressure on Rebecca because we're her family. Who do they think that she's going to side with? Hey, you would think.
They loved Rebecca and they wanted to make sure that she was okay with this decision and not to feel like she was being sold.
Yeah. Well, isn't that interesting though, that if that's the case, that wouldn't have been part of the conversation initially? That was hey, we've already taken the dowry. We've already done all this stuff. Now we're going to wait till after the fact to ask you if you're okay with it. So I think that, again, it could be a delaying time kind of thing.
Well, maybe she didn't realize she had to leave like right now.
Yeah.
Like,
The other piece of it is,
couple
too,
days,
is
let the camels rest for a minute.
the piece there is you can also
Like-
imagine that her brother and her mother got caught up in the moment.
Exactly.
We're just going to agree to anything.
Yeah.
But then they're second guessing things. And they're
Yeah.
realizing, oh no, we're never going to see her again. Let's just hold on a minute. Let's
Yeah.
have a party. Let's not go away party. Let's some plans and things.
What's that? Seller's remorse. Absolutely.
Maybe they did. Maybe if she said she didn't want to go, maybe they were going to think about how to get out of this mess they got themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So very, very possible, and I do think that we all have those moments where question, man, how did I get here? Like, I find myself in this situation, all of a sudden I'm like, oh God, I don't know how I got here. All right, so, but they put it back on Rebecca, and they asked Rebecca, are you willing to go with this man? They asked her, and she replied, yes, I will go. And that's
Maybe
such.
She didn't want to stay home.
You know what?
Maybe she was waiting for this day.
You know what? I am tired of watering camels. I'm going to go to this rich man. I ain't never going to have to draw no camel water again. I'm going to get in this Lamborghini and I'm going. Yeah, exactly. So,
One of the other pieces, we don't know if maybe she had received some word ahead of time too. Like, it's possible.
maybe.
It's possible that God set that up.
Because maybe camels are pretty rare, and if there's people passing them or going, man, there's somebody traveling along with, all these camels. Which is good to think about. It kind of reminds me of when the Tesla Cybertrucks came out. I can't tell you how many times I got a text message or a picture of somebody. Oh my God, I saw one of these Cybertrucks. I could imagine that too. Of this traveler come in. Man, y'all would not believe that I saw this man with 10 camels traveling through the desert. Maybe she had heard. Maybe they had known. Yeah.
And also, it was an overnight stay, so
Yeah.
maybe she did pray about it, and maybe the Lord gave her
Mhm.
peace about it.
No, absolutely. Very, very possible. Absolutely possible that she was praying on it herself.
We don't know what her personality was. She might be someone that is easily excited. We're like, ooh,
Yeah.
let's go.
Yeah, adventure. You know, and I mean, and we know that Isaac was somewhere in that 40, ish age range. We don't know exactly how old Rebecca is right here, but I do think that it's fair to say her family wasn't expecting her to say, "Yeah, I'll go. Like, I'm ready. Let me out of here." Okay.
Well, isn't Laban later sort of doesn't do well?
Yeah. There's
That's
some
the
things.
same guy?
Yeah.
I thought the name was
So-
It is.
And so, we already see the pattern later where he's like,
Yeah.
no, I'll just work on something later.
Yeah.
Maybe he
And then he switches the
wasn't
bride.
sneaky
Yeah.
enough the first go round. So
Yeah.
learn from that.
Leah and Rachel, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's very, very possible that she knew that. Well, he was acting as a patriot, so very likely she knew that he would go back on some things, or he would try to be underhanded.
It's Rebecca's son
Yeah,
that ends up going through all that with him.
yeah.
And maybe it's a little bit of payback almost.
Maybe.
Left.
And it kind of just shows again that this family has been screwed up from day one. Whether you look at the modern Jews or the Israelites coming out of Egypt or the patriot, they have literally been screwed up from day one. Yeah, it is. Huh? We all are, yeah. We all are, and that's the point, that God is going to use all of us, like all of our screw ups, all of our mistakes, all of our failures. Every time we fall flat on our face, people that have, at moments questionable character, God's still going to use them. He's still going to bless them, and His will is going to be done regardless of how messed up we are. Because I think about there's so much evil in the world. If God is good, why do bad things happen? Constantly, He is working the bad things out for our good. It might not be immediate, but it happens. Yeah.
Out there just, taking advantage of everybody. But think of all the people who God is touching through them.
Oh, absolutely.
Regardless
absolutely.
of their intentions.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get in the rabbit hole specifically, but there are things such as the prosperity gospels, and there's other. Cults. Well, I wasn't going to use a strong, but there's other cults. I do think that there are people that can be saved in spite of bad teaching, right? It's where their heart is and their personal relationship is with God. I do hope and pray, and we should all hope and pray that they're drawn out of those cults, coming out of Jehovah's Witness, right? There are people that God has called that are His, that are in these groups, but our heart should be to be drawn out of those groups. I think that should be the prayer that we have. And I do think that there will be people who die as members of those groups that God calls to Himself, But I do think that the leaders and the people who know better are going to be judged accordingly. I really do, because, and again, I didn't want to get on the rabbit hole, but, you take somebody like Amber's friend, Julia, right? Julia is part of the Mormon Church. And Julia, I really believe she loves Jesus. I really believe she loves Jesus. She reads her Bible, she does her studies, she comes to the Blacksburg Church, but she won't leave the Church of Latter-day Saints because that's where her family is. And her family will absolutely excommunicate her and have nothing to do with her, So I do think that she, quote, attends out of familial necessity. But now, granted, we could always make the point of, well, where's your heart? Is your heart for Jesus? Is your heart for your family? That's difficult, right? Those are things that
And that's really harsh to put on somebody.
it is harsh to put on somebody.
Well, you never know that someone like that, if her heart is for Jesus, if she stays, it
Yeah.
could be that she influences a lot of other people because she stays.
Maybe. And
Because if everybody who's in one of those situations who believes in God leaves,
Yeah.
who's ever going to talk to those people and tell them the truth?
well, and I think that's where, in all honesty, I think some of the best evangelists to certain groups and certain cults are those who have come out of it. To me, there's nobody better to evangelize to atheists than a former atheist. There's nobody better to go talk to the JWs than a former
Which is
JW.
true, but also the JWs won't listen to someone
They
like
won't.
that. So therefore, it kind of like negates itself a little bit.
And the thing too, and it's not just them, but a lot of these groups they want to write you off, completely. You're a heretic. You are, you've denounced the faith. But at the same time, they're depending on where God has worked on their heart. Because remember, God has to regenerate the heart first to receive the word. So I do think that God will put the right person in those places to call them out. But again, it's very difficult to say for me if somebody's saved or not saved. Now, and that's just the general population. If you're one of the leaders and you know better, I think that's a whole other ballgame. Because again, you should
Or
know better.
specifically, directly, consciously leading people astray.
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, a lot of them will sit there and say, they'll be confronted with what they teach, and they'll say, "Oh, that's not what we teach." But you're one of the leaders, and then when you address it, like, "Oh, it is," but we just don't tell anybody that's what we believe.
There's a lot of things that the Mormon Church believes, and it's publicly out there
Oh, it is.
for people to know that is what their doctrines are.
Yep.
But if you were to ask Julia about that,
She doesn't know.
they don't do that at her church.
Nope.
No, that's not, my church doesn't do that. But you're still associating yourself with the name Mormon.
Yep.
Why? Why are you associating yourself with Mormon if you don't believe that?
Yep.
And it's because her mama died, her daddy's the only one left, and if she leaves, she's gonna feel like, and it's about
Deserting him,
and it's about being brave enough to do it. I
Yeah.
don't know that I could do the same thing. You know what I mean? It's a thing, it's a choice that she has to make on her own that she can handle the consequences or the blessings from, and it's nobody can make that decision for her.
Mm-mm.
So it's a whole thing.
But I
You
do.
have to love her, and
We do love her. We do love her, and we share truth with her.
share truths and all that. And the thing about it is, it's a work.
It is.
So if she is truly saved and Jesus Christ is her Savior, her going to that Mormon church is not going to keep her from spending eternity
No.
with Jesus, but it maybe keep her life might be harder because of it.
Yeah.
Her blessings might not be as readily available, and
Well,
it's a hard thing to do.
I like to think about, again, we always talk about the thief on the cross versus that 90-year saint, right? At the end of the day, they're both saved, aren't they? They're both going to be in paradise. But did the thief on the cross get to spend a life of sanctification and learning about Jesus? No. So if you have somebody who has that deathbed confession, they're as saved as the 90-year saint who's attended every single Sunday. Jesus died for them too. But knowing Jesus on this side of glory is a blessing too. Getting to study his word, getting to be
Every
with the
time
family,
she
being
walks
with the
in that
church.
she might be convicted.
Yeah.
And that's a hard life.
It is hard. It is hard. But yeah.
We can't judge her based on that decision because her salvation is not ours.
And it's entirely possible that her sanctification journey has not reached the point to
No.
And she may eventually.
And she might eventually, and bless her.
Because there's lots of things in my life that I look back on now, and I go, why did it take me so long to understand that truth? Why did it take me so long to leave that thing?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't there in my sanctification journey. I wasn't to the point where I recognized it for what it was.
Well, and think too, I mean, God is going to reveal things to you in his time. It's no different than the disciples and the apostles traveling with him. They didn't know everything from day one. They literally witnessed the miracles and they saw it firsthand. And it didn't click until Jesus himself revealed the knowledge to them. So again, you can experience Christ, you can know Scripture, but until it just God does that work in your life, it's not going to happen. So why didn't he do it day one? Well, he had a purpose. They had to grow. They had to become, who they were. And I saw a post the other day about Paul, how Paul is, I'm the least of the apostles, and then I'm, the least of the saints, and then I'm the chief of sinners. And that's Paul going through his life. We see his humility increase and himself decrease in Christ, throughout his journey. He didn't have it all together on day one.
God has a whole schedule of divine appointments that
I like that.
the time is not there.
Hey, you're saying God's type A, he made a perfect schedule
Yes.
for all of us? I love
God made a perfect
He is
schedule.
the biggest type A ever.
I love you.
He's got one of
Yep. Yep.
That's a really big refrigerator.
It is, and I think I've got time to kind of hit this rabbit hole a little bit. Okay, so this is another thing people want to talk about is, again, kind of with like the free will. Does God know what would have happened if Rebecca had stayed? He's omniscient, right? He absolutely knows what would have happened. Now, what we're not saying is that God reacts to our choices. Okay, that is heresy. God is not a reactionary God at all. Okay, that's a form of what's called modalism, and it's a heresy where God is not powerful enough and he's having to react to what we do. That's not it at all. Okay, what it means is, because there's a part of scripture, and I can't remember the verse right now, where Jesus says that it hurts his heart and it pains his heart that if the Jews would have come to them sooner and understood sooner, right? It hurts him, and he knows that. So he knows the blessings that could have been because he's omniscient. He's not reacting, but it's a divine plan. He knew the plan, and he's going to set everything in motion that has to happen for us. Now, that's why I say, there's nothing that we can do that can stop Jesus from coming back. Was there anything that the Jews could have done to stop Jesus going from the cross? No, but they had to work out in a certain order and a certain plan so that things could happen for redemptive history to occur. So we just have to be careful. God's not reactionary. It's a plan. It's just he knows all things that could have happened in his omniscience. So
It's better to make the plans than the one who knows all the outcomes.
absolutely. So finishing off here, verse 59, we'll go through the last few verses. So they said goodbye to Rebekah and sent her away with Abraham's servant and his men. The women who had been Rebekah's childhood nurse went along with her. They gave her this blessing as she parted. Our sister, may you become the mother of many millions. May your descendants be strong and conquer the cities of their enemies. Then Rebekah and her servants, girls, mounted the camels and followed the man. So Abraham's servant took Rebekah and went on his way. Meanwhile, Isaac was in the Negev, had returned from Beer Lahai Roi. One evening, as he was walking and meditating in the fields, he looked up and saw the camels coming. When Rebekah looked up and saw Isaac, she quickly dismounted from her camel. Who is that man walking through the fields to meet us? She asked the servant. And he replied, it is my master. So there we go. The servant of Abraham is saying, this is my master. So this is why we say that Abraham's probably dead. He's already passed. He's acknowledging who the current head of the family is. So Rebekah covered her face with her veil. Then the servant told Isaac everything he had done. And Isaac brought Rebekah into his mother Sarah's tent, and she became his wife. He loved her deeply, and she was a special comfort to him after the death of his mother. So God had that divine appointment ready to go. He knew what was going to happen. And we see that the moment she sees Isaac, she's ready. She puts down the wedding veil. She's ready to be his wife. She's excited about this. So it's not so much of a negative for her, not like just the arranged marriage. She's very happy to be here.
Maybe if she saw him and she's like,
look at him. Look at that field hand. Oh, yeah. They've been together for a month. He's been telling her all kinds of stuff. So
this last line here.
Yeah.
Is, to me, it seems a little more telling about the timeline.
Yeah.
So Isaac was comforted after his mother's death.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah died long before.
Yeah. Well, and we can think this is probably.
Isaac would have kind of gotten over it,
Now, he's probably still mourning his mother. He could have been a mama's boy. So he was a mama's boy. What 10 days? They didn't happen. So that's what he's saying. The 10 days didn't happen. Rebecca wanted to go.
Everybody just
With her differently, yeah.
Right, so, and
Yeah.
it's supposed to take her in his mother's hand.
Yeah.
It's very familiar.
Yeah, it is. So I think it shows he was a mama's boy, and he had a special relationship with his mama. So this is the woman that's becoming of utmost importance in his life. So kind of it is symbolic. Where mom was the most important, now Rebecca's the most important woman. So I'm way over time. I forgot it's supposed to be 10:15 and not 10:25. So I apologize. So Ashley, you gonna pray us out, brother?